What's up, guys? Garrett here again. It has been a minute since I've recorded. Got a new job, full-time job, where I'm now treating this side hustle as a side hustle. So I just want to get into that, kind of what's going on with that, where I'm going and whatnot. And while I'm doing that, obviously, I'm going to be sourcing. Just showing you guys how I source and whatnot. I have been doing a little bit of sourcing already, so might be trying some different areas and whatnot. But anyways, so one of my other videos I recorded, I went into how I was, going full time, selling on Amazon, which, is amazing. I, had everything on point, nothing was behind, and, it was great. But the money wasn't there. I wasn't quite making the money. So I had to go back to a job. I got a full-time job, and then so now I'm treating this as a side hustle again. And it's honestly been a huge weight off my shoulders. I was trying so hard to make it work, living off of like 20% of what I was making, and although those gold bars, they seem cool and everything, that's not what you're making. You gotta know your numbers, know it to a T, before you take that step into full time, because those gold bars will fool you. And they fooled me, and it took me a little bit to realize that whatever revenue I'm making is not what I'm actually making. So really, having a full-time job is it's something to keep you going, even if you're doing it paycheck to paycheck. If you're making paycheck to paycheck on your full-time job, and then you're coming home and you're working on this, you're gaining ground. And that's the main thing, is you want to just find the ways that you can gain ground and keep building. So if you're full-time on your Amazon business, that means that you're pulling money out of your business, and that's at the beginning. If you're a year or two in, and that's not good. You want to be building that business. I mean, there's what do you call that, anomalies, and by that, with this, I mean like people who start with a ton of money. If you're making a ton of money, or you have a ton of money, and you can throw six figures at this, you could probably make it work in a year. The biggest ladder to climb would be your knowledge on how to find the products, which is that takes a year in itself to figure out exactly how to do it. In any method that you choose, OA, traditional OA, OA media, or going to thrift stores. If you have a ton of money to throw at it, that's not your barrier to go over your, and you can really make a dent in this business, but it takes you, being able to spend it in the right places. But if you're like me, and you're not starting with a lot of money, then it's best to keep your job and treat this as a side hustle. That's because, so I see all these things where people are like, well, can I start with $100? Can I start with $1,000, $10,000, whatever they got? They're asking if they can start with it. And yeah, of course, especially with books, spend $100 on books, in a week, and just keep doing that. But that's the issue. It's right there. You got to keep doing it. It's not what you start with. It's your cash flow. So if you're making, you got a full-time job and you're making money, if you just throw $100 on it and then you don't do anything for a month, that's not the point. Like, you could buy, a book for $100 and then sell it for $200. You're like, boom, I did it. But then you're not growing after that. You just made that money, and now you're like, crap, now I have to go find that again. And if you're doing, the OA book method, it's not like that. You're not going to be able to go online and buy the same book over and over and over and over again to make the exact same profit over and over and over again. That's just not how it works. If that was the case, then it would be the case with some of them, but eventually someone else is going to find it, and then a lot of people are going to find it, and then that book is no longer profitable for that time being, until, you know, another Goodwill or something, you know, gets a hold of it and drops the price to a stupid amount. But that's the caveat, though, is you have to find the books, and you can't just buy it once and then boom, you've got a business. You got to find how to replenish your inventory over and over and over and over again. And with books, you know, let's put it in perspective. This is August. This is the biggest, you know, textbook season of the year. And this is whenever booksellers, you know, shine. The August and January, that's the times that they shine in Christmas, obviously, but that's everything. But I'm making, right now, I'm at $7,000 in revenue at a roughly 30% margins, which is pretty dang good. But the thing is like, I'm trying to get this right, because books is difficult, because if I buy a book today, it ain't gonna sell tomorrow. You know, it ain't gonna sell in a month. It ain't gonna sell in 2 months sometimes, just depending on the book, obviously. But I'm making $7,000 in revenue. I got 6 days left in the month of August, hoping to get to $10,000 in revenue ish, and at 30% margins. But I've spent, for the entire year, get ready for this, I've spent $28,000 on books. Like, that is the number that I'm at of spending on books, $28,000, and I'm only making $7,000 in revenue in the best month of the year. So, and that puts me at just under 900 books in inventory. So you gotta think about that. That is not a living wage. I think I've made close to $15,000 in profit for the year, and that's profit that my business is making, not what I'm making, not what I'm bringing home. I'm living off of like 20% of that, not living off of it anymore, but I was living off of it at 20% of that. And, you know, even though that, I think, that's like 58, 60, close to $60,000 in revenue for the year. That sounds cool. That sounds great. That's more than what most jobs will pay you, but that's my revenue. That's not what I'm taking home. You know, my profit is 15,000 ish. And then my actual take-home pay for my personal expenses is 20% of that. You know what I'm saying? So like, you gotta understand where your numbers are at. You gotta understand that, you know, what your business is making, your revenue isn't what you're making. It isn't what you can live off of. It's just, you know, your business is doing that. And that's something you gotta think about. And so having a cash flow is way more important than having, you know, $1,000 to start off with, because $1,000 is pretty good to start off with. But if you get $1,000 this month, but you don't get it again for several months, you know, you'll spend $1,000 and then you're stuck. So you got to figure out how to spend. If you have $1,000, spend like $100 each week until you can get to the point where you're getting like, you know, $1,000 each month, and then you spend that $100 each week, and then you can get to $2,000 a month, and you spend $150 each week. You know what I'm saying? It's a building process to where you're getting that cash flow built instead of just, you know, a large sum of money at once, because that's the main mind shift change that you have to make in order to start thinking like an entrepreneur, really, or someone who's no longer trading time for money, but using money to work for them. You know, that's the big mindset shift change that a lot of people need to make, in order to, you know, start thinking like a businessman, or start thinking like, all right, I want to build something, instead of, you know, ooh, I've got, you know, $15,000, like that's what I made for the year. I could go buy a car, you know, and then I have nothing after that, you know, like I could spend $15,000 on a brand new car, and then boom, I got nothing, you know, and then I got to start again, all over again, from $100 a week. Instead, you can take that $15,000 and roll it back into the business, and then you got, you know, $150 a week to spend, then you got $200 a week to spend, then you got $300 a week to spend, and you got 400 and 600, and it grows exponentially. But you have to be willing to sacrifice the immediate gratification to roll it back in, and that was hard for me to understand at the beginning, because you got money, you know what I'm saying? Like, especially if you never had money, and you get a whole bunch of money from your business. Come Christmas time is a great example. You'll get a big jump in payment, and you're just like, man, I've made it, I'm doing great. And then for Booksellers especially, February comes, and then your sales crash, and then you're like, whoa, what happened? I was doing so great. Well, it's just because for Booksellers, every February is the worst month of the year, and it's just inevitable that's gonna happen, and you have to plan for that. So whenever Christmas comes and you get that big jump of money, instead of going and spending it like on a new computer, which is a good investment to make, investment is a good product to buy to help your company out, it's not the right one to do, because it's not, I buy a computer, it's not going to bring me money back. Instead, take that money that you get, that big lump extra money that you usually don't see, take that and put it into more books, and then those more books will bring you more money, and then you spend that on books, and then they're just over and over and over and over again. And that's what having a job while you treat this as a side business at the beginning is so important, because instead you can take whatever percentage of that check that you get each week or 2 weeks or a month, and you take that and you can just roll it back in and keep growing your business faster and faster, while having enough money to cover all your living expenses, because that's the biggest trouble that you're gonna have is being able to pay for that. Excuse me. But that is why the weight has been lifted off of me a little bit since I went back to working at a full-time job. I definitely have less time to work on the business. One struggle I'm having is I need to hire people to help me out, to keep everything in line, like all my tracking, my sales, tracking my buys, tracking my expenses, everything. That takes up a lot of time. Also handling inventory, that builds up like crazy, because there's stuff you need to do to make sure that your inventory is doing good. All that stuff you have to do, and right now, whenever I'm working early in the morning and I'm working at night, I don't have the time. I need to buy to keep the business going. I need to write down what I'm selling, when I'm selling, track these books, don't track these books. There's a lot of stuff you have to do that's not just buying, which would I would make a lot more, better money even, or better use of my time if I had someone helping me track all that stuff. But it that takes money, and I don't have that money that's flowing right now. I need to put as much money as I can into books. That way, I'm not selling right now. I'm selling more books because it's August. I'm selling more books than I am buying, and that's a problem. That means I'm declining. I'm not growing. But at the same time, I'm tracking all the books that are selling good. All the books that I've sold before, I'm tracking them. I'm putting them on a spreadsheet. Tracking them with Keep a Product Finder, not Product Finder. Keep alerts or whatever. I'm tracking it with that, and so eventually my replenishables will be able to hold me through it. And like before I go and hire out someone to buy me products online, I want to have my replenishables like on point, because if I can have that on point, there's no more of this like where I'm doing right now. I'm like looking at this book like, man, this book does sell. It sold several times back here in May, back here in January, November. Like, this book does sell for a good price up here from $49 to $60. And right now we're looking at, $9.91. And that's, this would be a great book to buy, but the offer count's going high, but well, look at that. The offer count was high here and it went down. There's no Yeah, I'm gonna go for this book, but but that's the thing. Oh no, I'm not. It's acceptable. Never mind. But that's the thing is like I want to have my replenishables down to where I know exactly how to tell somebody else that, you know, like this book comes up, buy it. This book comes up, don't buy it. This book comes up, buy it. You know, stuff like that. I mean, those you know, you're never gonna. I don't feel like you're ever gonna stop sourcing like this. But at least after a year, it's been a year now, coming up in September, been a year since I've been doing book online arbitrage. 3 years. It's been, my business is now 3 years, but I've been like going back and forth from going to Goodwills, doing the online arbitrage method, and yada yada. But it you know, I'm coming up on a year to where I think that you know, I'll be able to, you know, tell somebody how to buy what I want to buy, you know, because everyone's different, you know, like what, you know, some other people tell you to look for may not be what you want to look for. Like, for a great example, Joji Davenport, the other YouTuber, if you haven't checked him out, go check him out. He's the one that taught me all of this. But if he's looking for those really long-tailed books that are more kind of more expensive area, buying them from $40 to $80 and then flipping them for like $200, 50 or 150 to 200. And the books will sell like this one. Like, you look at this graph right here, it sells one time. It's not a great price that it's sold at, but this isn't a great example. But it's only sold one time in the last, you know, since last year. And if it was a good price, he would buy it. Even though it's only sold once, he would buy it, you know, because in his mind, he's making an investment. And, you know, that would be a good investment for him. But for me, at my current place, I probably wouldn't buy it, especially if it was the higher end, like the $40 to $80, because that $40 to $80 I could put into, you know, maybe some slower moving books, faster moving books that are bringing me back less profit, and I could roll it in faster. But he's probably got a lot more money than me to play with, you know. Maybe here in a year or two, I'll be thinking the same process, you know, because he doesn't have to track as much, he doesn't have to write down as much like expenses, as much, you know, sales, because he's going with those long-tailed books that don't sell a whole lot, you know. So you know, you just kind of have to think about how you want your business to run, and then that's what you want to be able to teach somebody. What is that? SOP, standard operating procedure. Get that down. That way, you know, whenever you do teach somebody how you want to do it, it's not this, well, I kind of like these books, but, you know, it's up to you. Don't worry about it. It doesn't need to be up to them. It needs to be up to you. And you need to tell them, this is what I want, and this is what I don't want, you know. And right now, I feel like I could probably do it, but I wouldn't be able to do it confidently. And I need to be able to do it confidently. That way I can, you know, for sure say these are the books I want. And I feel like for sourcing, it'll take another year, maybe another 2 years for me to get to that point where I know exactly what I want, you know. And I guess I should say another year or two where I could hire somebody to do it. Now, when it comes to hiring somebody to do my admin work, like tracking all my everything that sells, track it down, everything that I buy, track it down, that will come quicker because it's not that hard. It's like, all right, I bought this book, put it on this Google spreadsheet. You know, I sold this book, put it on a Google spreadsheet. You know, or you know, that's a lot easier to get a standard operating procedure down rather than sourcing, because you definitely have a lot more that you're wanting to keep track of, you know, and understand more of what you're looking for. But it definitely takes a lot of time. Like, if you're here and you're wanting to find a side hustle that brings you money back and can be lucrative, this is definitely a great, you know, side hustle to start. However, it takes time. It takes a lot of time. If you got a ton of money to start, it'll take less time. If you're like me and you're, you know, you're scraping everything you can to get this going. It's going to take a lot more time. But if you start it now, it will grow. It will grow a lot. And in a year, it's hard for me to like kind of judge it, because last year at this time I was buying new products, trying to flip it on Amazon, and I was doing the traditional OA thing. So I can't look at my last year's sales and compare it, because my revenue was crazy better. I was doing crazy amounts of revenue, but then my profit suffered because my margins were, if at best, 10%, and I mean, there were some products that was doing better and some were doing worse. But it's just tougher. It's different toughness, like with the books, the amount of tracking, the amount of Google spreadsheet work that you have to do is so much more, because you're doing it by book, and you're tracking each book, and like, so I've got like 800 some products, some media products on my Amazon store, and every single one of those that I've bought, I've written down. I've tracked it on a Google spreadsheet, like right here. I'll show you the spreadsheet that I got. This is right here. You can see I spent $28,280 for the year, and every book that I buy, I put it on this spreadsheet, and all the green tells me that I've sold it at a gain, and I wrote down what date I sold it, what price I sold it, and what the proceeds were, and then the fees will calculate, and then I'll put later down I have a prep center, and then right here I've got like just $1 just to any other unseen products. I can put that down, and then this will tell me what my profit was for this exact book. But that's every single book I've bought and sold, I've got it on this. And if I lose money, I'll put it as red, saying like, this wasn't a good book. This book particularly, since it doesn't have any sales in it, it might have gotten lost, or back in January, I was like buying books and having them sitting here, and sometimes I would, instead of returning it, because having whatever % back just wasn't worth returning it. Now I see that this would have been worth it, but you live and learn. I learned a lot since January, but this is look at all this: January, February, March, April, May, June, July, and August. So I've tracked every single purchase, and this is where I'm at. I bought 3 books today, well, DVD and 2 books, and this is where I'm at. You can see the costs for them. So I've spent, today alone, I spent $101, and that's pretty average. Yesterday I went 36, I guess, not super average, but the day before that I'm at the 70s, or actually more. I'm at the 90. So yeah, so you can see how I track it. This actually format I got from Joji Davenport. I erased quite a bit to where my seller amp only brings over the cost, Amazon URL, product name, ASIN tags, and date purchased. And then this side I got all from the Joji's Google spreadsheet, which you can find on his video where he goes over how he tracks it. But this is the best way to track all your OA books, and it's it's time consuming. It's not easy. It sucks, honestly. Some days I'm like, man, I just want to be able to track one product and have 1,000 units in. That would be a whole lot easier than tracking each quantity of one. It's not easy. But anyways, I think I'm gonna end it there, guys. That was kind of just what I wanted to go over exactly how things have changed, and things have slowed down. I'm not gonna lie. I'm only I went from buying like 10 to 20 books a day to only buying like 1 to 5 books a day. And I'm right now, the business isn't growing, and as I track more books, it'll get better, it'll get faster. But right now, I just don't have the time. I now have the time to really focus on the stuff that I need to focus on. Like growing my inventory is the main thing. So I try to source as much as I can each day. But that means my inventory isn't getting a whole lot of care. So there's a lot of stranded books. There's a lot of things that I still need to focus on that I haven't been, especially with inventory. That requires your attention. There's things with my repricer I'm wanting to change. Wanting to try to, do the conditional repricing to where I can make each book, reduce in price as after 6 months. Like if I haven't sold it in 6 months, certain books, if I haven't sold in 6 months, then, I want to drop the price, and then, so on and so forth after that each month. There's a lot of things that I want to do that I just can't right now. But there's a huge weight lifted off my shoulder where I'm not having to live off of my Amazon. I'm not checking it constantly like, oh, where's my sales? Where are my sales? Because it doesn't matter. I'm not living off of that. It's all that money is getting rolled back in to the business, so I can grow as much as I want, because my living expenses are taken care of. But that's all I want to go over, guys. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one. Later.